The Perry Panthers are rolling, and so are we on a Saturday morning. Welcome inside the Saturday Morning Huddle, brought to you by Dan Brocker's Import Automotive. Billy Beebe with you, Kenny Rhoda with you, bright and early on a Saturday. What a huge night in high school football, which means what a huge show we will have for you today. We are live on Facebook. We are live on YouTube. If you miss a segment, if you miss a piece of the show, if you found out something happened after you tuned out, always can go back and rewatch. And of course, we're posting the highlights of the show later on. We appreciate you joining us on this Saturday morning. And Kenny, a huge night in high school football in Stark County. Big matchups in the Federal League, undefeated teams no more, and everything kind of turned out with the big plays and whatnot. It ended up being a big one, and that kind of starts with your game, correct?
Yeah, what a beautiful night for football in Stark County as well, right, Billy? After the torrential downpours we had last week, it was a perfect night for football. We were at Keith Wakefield Stadium, Federal League lid lifter for Perry and Lake. In fact, 6 out of the 7 teams in the Federal League, right, squared off against each other. Jackson, the only one who did not play a Federal League game last night. And our game, we had 2 undefeated teams, we had a 3-0 Lake team coming in to play Perry, who should have been undefeated, right? But they weren't. They were 2-1 after that tough loss to Warren Harding. And we were kind of wondering, all right, which offense is going to show up? Is it going to be Lake's offense? They seem to be more high potent than maybe Perry's had been early in the season, or would Perry control the game, grind it out? And we thought it would be a low-scoring game, but which offense would show up? Well, you showed the play, the big play of the game. That broke a scoreless tie right there as Kyson Walker takes this one 46 yards in and out of traffic, and then just runs away from everybody with a nice move there to the pylon, basically. And he finished with 118 total yards in the game, receiving and running. And he also threw a pass on a double pass. So he ends up having a huge game, and they get the win. Perry 17-7 over Lake. So Lake falls to 3-1. Perry improves to 3-1. And how about that? A school record 50-yard field goal for the senior Brock Huggins. We were watching him in warmups, Billy, right? Rick Worstell and I, as we did the Alt Care Stadium show, we were watching him, and then Mark Miller came in. Mark looked at me. He goes, was that 50? I said, it was 55 yards, Mark. So we thought he could go out to at least 55, and this is a weapon to have, man. Now, he missed one later in the game, but this one put them up 10-0, and you can see the reaction there from the Perry faithful and the players, his teammates. So that's a nice weapon to have, but an outstanding game plan by Zach Slates. They tried to shrink the game as much as they possibly could to keep it away from Lake. Zach is calling the offensive plays, and I was watching him with his quarterback, Austin Maddox, and he was purposely, it seemed like, and we're going to have him on the show later so I can ask him to find out for sure, but to me it looked like he was purposely waiting till about 20 to 25 seconds left on the play clock before he even sent the play in. So they wanted to bleed the clock and shorten the game, and it worked to their advantage. And I caught up with, and I affectionately call him this. I don't want anybody from Perry getting on me. The old man, Keith Wakefield. The stadium's named after the guy, and he's coaching on the sidelines as their defensive coordinator. And Billy, through 4 games, his defense has given up 22 points. They only gave up 7 to Lake last night. So Keith Wakefield, he looks great. I chatted with him briefly after the game. His defense did a great job, and kudos to Perry, man. That was a heck of a win for them after losing twice to Lake last year, once in the regular season and once in the playoffs.
Yeah, for a guy who was not at that game, Kenny, the 2 biggest questions I had, of course, first starting off, what happened with the Lake offense?
They had opportunities. There were receivers that were open, and they didn't get them the ball. Alex Squire finished 11 of 25 for 155, no touchdown passes, 3 interceptions. So they turned it over, which you can't do in a big game like this. The previous week, it was Perry who turned it over 5 times, right? 1 pick, 4 fumbles, and they lose to Warren Harding. Well, flip the script this week. Perry wins the turnover battle 3-1. And that defense did a number, stopping the run. Total yards, I want to say 287 to 214. So Lake only had 214 total yards and 7 points in that game. So it was a great job by the defense, but there were plays out there to be made by Lake, and they just did not come up with them.
Other side of things, and I think you explained it pretty well. The Perry defense, what did they do? The Perry offense to step up and get those points on the boards. You talked about it, control the clock, and then to close the game out, some double reverses, some special things. If you're a Lake defender, I know they like to get aggressive. They're quick to the ball. So, I mean, if you're running a double reverse, that's kind of going to throw them off. I agree with you. Giant win for Perry. That was a must prove yourself kind of game like you talked about. Are you truly back? Are you truly top of the Federal League? Well, you took down an undefeated Federal League opponent at home in a high-pressure situation. Love it. I think that was a key game to have on our slate of games. So that's what you kind of get with us in our 80th year of coverage. Hey, this is a big game locally. Everybody's going to be talking about it. No doubt about it. It was our Ultimate Health Systems radio game of the week. If we can switch over to mine real quick here, Kenny, the Alt Care YouTube game of the week, which you can rewatch now. Big Federal League matchup. However, this was just one both teams needed. GlenOak took this one last year, so they have that confidence, desperately needing a win, desperately needing to see their offense get going. For McKinley, and I mentioned this pregame, a team that's really going to push the pass, they needed that weather, and they needed that confident feeling of, hey, these guys got us last year. We're getting them back. And that's exactly what happened. McKinley offense started quickly. We'll talk Keith Quincy here soon. He had a terrific night. 100-plus yards receiving. He was at 148 with 8 catches, caught that touchdown. He also had an interception on defense. And then once they establish the pass, Kenny, and I'm sure you've seen it, they can get the run going because a defense is so fearful that they're going to get hit on a play like this that they're not selling out for the run anymore, and it allows McKinley to do a little bit of both. So the Pups were on top early. They controlled things. They made all the right plays. You can see, again, they're getting running and passing. Cam Montgomery was impressive. However, 15 penalties for 145 yards. 15 penalties for 145 yards. That was just McKinley.
Yeah. You know what, Billy? I thought it would be chippy, and I thought McKinley would win, even though they looked terrible last week against Caz Tech out of Detroit, right? I thought they would win. They had the motivation of losing 7-3 last year late in the season, right? Their only Federal League loss. So not surprised. Saw, who was it? Nino Hill doing the bird, the Golden Eagles, when he scored the touchdown. So I figured there'd be some trash talking, but that's too many. And that's something that Antonio moving forward needs to clean up for his team to be a better football team. And he knows that. The question is, how do you fix it?
Yeah, and we have an interview with Coach Hall that we'll play later. He talked about that. He was upset. It wasn't what he wanted. McKinley was very lackadaisical. They fumbled once officially, I believe 4 times that they fumbled, and it was either a dead ball or some other type of penalty or something that happened that brought it back. Cam Montgomery had a play where he just rolled out to the right, Kenny, and you could see it in one of his touchdown runs there, but he just rolled out to the right and like casually just with one hand is carrying the ball. And he came up, got smacked, and the ball went flying out of bounds. And it was just kind of like, dude, just run out of bounds. And then Coach McDaniels, after I did a little report on the fumbles, he noted, hey, pay attention to the quarterbacks after they hand it off. They're supposed to be somewhere. And if they're not going over there, then, yeah, you can tell they don't care. And, yes, we paid attention. Both sides of the ball, mind you. GlenOak had the same thing. Sell it. If you're going to do an option, if you're going to do a possible play action, and that's something I learned last night. I did not know that. Quarterbacks have somewhere to go after. Obviously, I know they move, but like they have a place to be after they hand the ball off. They were not doing that. That was not
details, right? That's Tom McDaniels is all about the details, the finer details, right? So, if you're not selling, or as they call it, finishing the play What's your job? Do your job. Okay, your job as the quarterback is to step to the huddle, look at the defense, change the play call if you have to. If not, run the play. If it's a handoff, you hand it off. But if it's to try and set something up maybe later in the game, Billy, you got to finish that play to make the defense think that there's that possibility. And that's, the finer details that the good teams have down by week 4, you would think.
35-6, the final in that one. The touchdown that GlenOak gets, their first since week 1. So this was a kind of a scribble in the whole thing. Coach Garcia wants to defend the deep ball, which I said McKinley ended up getting anyway, but he wanted to defend the deep ball. So what does he do, Kenny? He puts his best player in the secondary. So I'm going to say GlenOak's quarterback scored a touchdown. However, it was not on offense. Adrian Burt played free safety for GlenOak. This pick 6, an extremely impressive play by him to kind of read off this defender. However, if you watch, again, this is probably the details. Cam Montgomery getting involved there and gets cracked on the play there. Burt runs it back. And like we talked about, I don't know what the coaching is for a quarterback. I really do hope they should, and I imagine they do coach quarterbacks up on what you're supposed to do on a pick and playing defense-wise, but he just lackadaisically steps up like he's going to make a tackle, and David Potter is a monster on defense, so that is not a guy you want to take a hit from. But an impressive play there for Adrian Burt. He had a wild night. He's playing quarterback. I believe he was out with a concussion at one point. He was out for a long time, comes back in, he's trying to get the offense going, but obviously he's avoiding hits. He's throwing balls early. GlenOak had no run game.
When you look at
they're going through it.
The total yards in this game, I wrote it down, 592 to 36. McKinley racked up 592 total yards. GlenOak now 0-4, McKinley 2-2. 592 to 36. It could only muster 36 yards, and their only points came on defense. So it's been a rough start for Scotty Garcia and the GlenOak Golden Eagles. They were able to turn it around last year. We'll see if they have, similar results this year, but it's going to have to start next week for them if they're going to try and save their season.
Yeah, and just because we have a little extra time here, Kenny, I think it is a good opportunity to talk about our player of the week because he is. Go ahead.
Yeah, you know what? We always try and figure out who our player of the week is based on everybody's opinion and everything like that. We try and do voting late in the evening, right after we get back from all our games. So now it's time to present the Community One Credit Union Player of the Week here on the Saturday Morning Huddle, and it is Keith Quincy from McKinley. Big numbers, 8 catches, $148 in the air, a touchdown on offense, and how about that? Flips, plays both ways, comes up with an interception in a revenge game win for the McKinley Bulldogs. So congratulations to our Community One Credit Union Player of the Week, Keith Quincy. Well-deserved, and he stood out in that win for the McKinley Bulldogs yesterday, and congratulations to him and McKinley. While it was sloppy and there are things to work on, they did get a convincing 35-6 win. That's the thing. What if they would cut down on those penalties and some of maybe the mental errors? How bad could the score have been? So that's where they can get better, but it doesn't get much better than that for a 1-week game as a wide receiver.
Hey, we want to thank Community One Credit Union for being a part of the show here. And, of course, they choose to sponsor the one segment here. It's Keith Quincy this week. They're doing something really cool right now, Kenny.
What's that?
Through October 26th, you can vote for your favorite Stark County school to win a competition they are having. So first place gets $1,000, second place gets $500, and third place gets $250. I love this. Community One is out there. They're helping the schools. They're allowing people to get involved to do so. So you can vote at www.c1cu.com. You get 1 vote daily. You want to share that because most votes win. So send that to your friends and family. Once you become a member at Community One, you can take advantage of all the services from free checking, mobile banking, lower rates on loans. They truly have it all. So we appreciate them being a part of the Saturday morning huddle. And again, Keith Quincy, a huge day for him. He was terrific. He is our one. He is the one. He's him this week. Terrific stuff there. And I got a chance to chat with him post-game.
Okay.
Here with Keith Quincy, our player of the game tonight. 8 catches, 145 yards, a touchdown, an interception. What was more fun tonight, offense or defense?
Actually, it was just a team. Like, we a team. We all coming together. We got Coach Hall, and he just drilled it into our head to be a team. I really don't know, what I'm going to college for, but wherever I is, I'm going to love it. I know that.
You guys went 2 weeks with losses. How important was this game tonight to get back to 500?
It's great. It feels good to be in the win column, especially going into the next week. You know that you just won and pushing yourself even more out of practice.
Good stuff there from Keith. He was terrific, and I did the math on that, Kenny.
All right.
He would have had offensively. I didn't really know how to count the interception, but 29 points if you had him on your fantasy team.
Oh, nice. That's a pretty good weekend, huh?
8 catches, 148 yards, and a touchdown. 29 fantasy points he would have. I believe he gets another 5 or 10 for an interception too, if you count that.
Okay. All right.
He was the one this week. He was terrific. And like you said, that win meant a lot to McKinley, both to get back on track and to beat GlenOak. Just a couple thoughts to close out that game. Really fun to watch them because of the deep ball. That type of offense is just, that's what everybody loves sometimes about football. Cam Montgomery's got an arm, and Coach Hall will talk about it later, but they have the guys on the outside to make that happen, right? The Xavier Harris touchdown, which you'll see here in just a second, was another example of it. Just really fun to watch that deep ball. Only question it left in my mind, Kenny, is you had a week like last week where it poured down rain, another impressive one here. Can you make this stuff happen when it's pouring down rain, or as I think ahead, when it's 35, 45 degrees late October, mid-October, and you're playing a better secondary in the playoffs?
Yeah, they're going to have to run the ball better, right, as the season progresses, especially next week. I'm looking at our handy day, and I was handing these out last night at the game, our pocket schedule. And next week, they host Perry. So Perry's coming off a huge win, arguably one of the best top 3 defenses in the county, right? You're going to have to do more than just try and step back and throw it, because they're going to put pressure on you. And my one concern with McKinley is their offensive line, Billy. That's my biggest concern with McKinley's offense. They have the guys to run it, right? In Jamar Johnson and Nino Hill. They have the guy to throw it, Cam Montgomery. They've got Harris and Quincy catching the ball, right? Can they protect the quarterback, and can they open up holes against the better teams? And so next week, we're going to get a better idea of how good this McKinley team is, as well as the Perry team in that big Federal League matchup.
Yeah, I'm just waiting on them to, Federal League-wise, as you stated, play a more complete team and see how they react. And it was clear to me from the interview post-game, Coach Hall's concerned about the penalties, and this was not a one-week thing. He says they have the penalty bug this season. It's a season issue for them. It's something they need to kind of get fixed. So they'll have to do so again. Look at this one, Kenny. Cam Montgomery just slowing down, relaxing. I'll get to the end zone. Well, you get popped at the end of the play if you don't get into the end zone, hustle in.
Yeah. That hopefully it registers, right? Hopefully it registers with them moving forward. But, we'll see. Let's take a look at all the scores, Billy, here on Dan Brocker's Import Automotive Saturday morning huddle. As we wait for some of the coaches to join us after their film sessions on a Saturday morning. Hoover comes up short, unfortunately, to Green, 21-19. They were down, came back late, had a chance with the 2-point conversion, come up a little bit short. So Green beats Hoover in a Federal League matchup, 21-19. Jackson goes on the road, and by the same score, Jackson gets a win over Mayfield, 21-19. That, of course, outside of the Federal League. Your 3 Federal League games were Perry 17-7 over Lake, McKinley 35-6 over GlenOak, Green 21-19 over Hoover, and then that Jackson game 21-19 against Mayfield. Massillon gets back in the win column. They beat Canisius 41-7, and they dominated that game once again. So after an 18-game winning streak gets snapped, Nate Moore and the Tigers get back in the winning or back to their winning ways, 41-7, in beating that team from New York. How about Louisville? 2-2. Coach Kappas goes 1-9 last year. They've already doubled their win total this year, and he's scheduled to join us at some point here on Dan Brocker's Import Automotive Saturday Morning Huddle. Louisville 38-13 over Marlington yesterday. Alliance picks up their first win. Coach Tim Goodman going to join us at some point here this morning. Alliance beats Ellett 46-24. Sandy Valley shuts out Minerva. I believe the losing streak now is at 33 games for Minerva. Sandy Valley back to 500 with a 42-0 win over Minerva. Canton South now 2-2, just like Sandy Valley. As they started 0-2, they win their next two. They beat Orville yesterday. Canton South 42-28 winners yesterday over Orville. This one had to hurt for Coach DeMarco and the Indians of Northwest. They were up 15-6, 21-6. They lose in overtime to Manchester. Big rivalry matchup there. And it looked like as we were seeing the scores throughout the night that Northwest was going to improve to 4-0. They lose 29-22. I'm sorry. It was 22-6 at one point. So 29-22 the final in overtime. Northwest comes up on the short end. Fairless loses to Triway 17-7. They did not score an offensive touchdown. Cameron Carl with a pick six for their only score. They fall to 3-1. Tuslaw loses to CVCA yesterday 47-7. Central Catholic, Trucker Lindesmith. Congratulations, Truck. We're going to talk to him a little later. Central gets its first win of the season, beating Salem 24-21 in overtime. East Canton, we were supposed to have Spider Miller right out of the gate. Not sure what happened there, but regardless, they get a win over St. Thomas. Their losing streak in the late 20s, I think 28-29, whatever it is for St. Thomas. East Canton beats them 43-13, and Melbourne, our only undefeated team left, Billy. They're 4-0 as they took down Tusky Valley yesterday, 41-7. So there's your scoreboard from week 4 in and around Stark County.
Good stuff there. A lot of upswings and downswings for teams that seemed like heading up, kind of get a pause. Teams that seemed like they were heading down, hit the brakes and turn around. So I love to see it because I think it means every team in the county is competitive and losses aren't killing a team's season. Couple players just because, they had taken the loss or fumbles, whatever it may be, they kind of switch things up and get things done. Kenny, let's jump to our first guest today.
Oh, let's do it. Absolutely.
You just talked about their game, the Louisville Leopards, a winner for the second time this season, and we welcome in their head coach, Coach Kappas. Coach, good morning. How are we feeling after a win yesterday?
Morning, guys. We're feeling good. Just had a lot of corrections to make, so sorry I was a bit late there. Film went a little longer than anticipated.
Coach, it's always better to make the corrections after a win than after a loss. So that's the positive on it as you win 38-13 over Marlington yesterday. How did the week of practice go leading into this game, and did most of it translate to the field yesterday?
We had a good week of practice. We've really been focusing on starting faster, which did not happen again last night. But we tried everything we could this week to kind of switch it up. So we still got off to a slow start, which was disappointing. But again, our guys never flinch right now, which is a good sign. So eventually we're gonna get off to a good start. But we executed well in practice, and a lot of those things showed up in the game.
Yeah, that bounce back, super important, Coach, as you know, I'm sure. Last week, turnovers, truly killer for you guys. Did you feel like that was a 1 week thing, or did you feel like that was something you had to nip in the bud real quick and talk with your team about?
Yeah, it was uncharacteristic of us, last week, turning it over 7 times. You're not going to win any games when you do that. So we addressed it. We do the ball security circuits and stuff like that every week. So we didn't change anything that we had to do. But obviously when you have those type of turnovers, you're gonna we're gonna be a little bit harder on the guys in terms of making sure we're valuing the football a little bit more. Still had two silly mistakes last night in terms of not taking care of the football. And it just comes back to communication with protections or whatever happens on those plays. But sooner or later you keep making those silly mistakes. You're going to lose games that you shouldn't lose, which I think has hurt us. So we got to get better in that department. But we got back to taking the ball back on defense last night and got 3 turnovers on defense, which was huge.
Coach, I know it's a team win, but who stood out last night? Who helped you guys rack up the 38 points and even the record of 2-2?
Well, we were able to run the ball effectively last night. We had over 350 yards of total offense, but Owen DiMarzio at running back had over 100 yards rushing, had over 60 yards receiving. He's just a weapon. He's so fast, but his game has really taken a turn just as a complete player of catching the ball and making guys miss and using the speed, but also getting the tough yardage too. So I think Owen was a huge part of that last night. And then Cam, we got 3 guys at running back right now that are doing really well. Cam Doherty gets in there, is more of a power guy. And he did a great job. And then, we got a freshman in Owen Wilson that's he's going to be special running back, and he got his first touchdown last night.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So, we can keep those 3 guys healthy. It gives us a chance to stay fresh and run the football, which is, ultimately you want to win in Stark County. You want to win and play in the playoffs. You got to be able to run the football and stop the run.
Yeah. Love to hear that first touchdown note there, Coach. Always exciting. If you could pick one thing from last year to this year that you kind of think about and say, man, we couldn't do this last year, we're doing it now and it's helping us. Do you think you could pinpoint something?
Well, I mean, you look at the stats right now where we are able to run the football and we're able to stop the run, and that's, I don't care what level of football you play at. You have to be able to do those 2 things to win football games. So we've focused on that all off season. That's part of our culture of who we want to be. And, that's a focal point of every single starting point of game plans on offense and defense.
Coach, you can build off of a win like this. You've already doubled your win total from last year. And as you said, enjoy it a little bit, make the corrections. Now it's on to Hoover, right? I mean, so that's the next game on the schedule. And Tadel Jancic, your quarterback, I'm curious to get your input on him through the first 4 games and what he'll need to do along with the rest of the offense to take on a good Hoover team.
Yeah, we have to, number one, protect the football. We're going to have to play a really, really good game to beat really good teams. And, going to next week, we're focusing on what we can do to get better, right? Correcting the mistakes. And Tate's done a really good job of managing games, not trying to do too much. He needs to do a better job at times of taking care of the football. But when he does do that, he's very effective. And when we can get into a rhythm, he gets better as the game goes on every single week. So again, trying to get him off to a quicker start is big this week. And he's gonna have to make some plays this week for us to be able to move the football. Because they're similar to us, right? They want to run the football, and they're gonna be tough up front, and it's gonna be a war in the trenches there.
Coach, we have Tom McDaniels doing color on our YouTube game, and we were talking about turnovers and penalties last night. He noted that, hey, that falls on the head coach, but his staff also has to do a great job of kind of fixing that and helping out with that. What has your staff been able to do this season to kind of help turn things around week to week?
Yeah, I mean, our staff put the time in that's necessary to give our kids a chance to win, right? And that's turning over every single stone that there is to try to find a way to give our players not only an advantage, maybe schematically, but to make sure the guys understand what they're supposed to do, what their alignment is, why we do things. And then, ultimately, making making great relationships is you talk about one thing from last year to this year. I just think we're such in a better place right now with our second year as a staff being here, of having great relationships with our players and a more in-depth relationship and those things take time, not that there wasn't the effort made last year, but we spending that whole off season with the guys in the whole summer, every single day, and earning their trust and respect and belief and love. That's what it's about. And our staff has done an outstanding job, and they sacrifice a lot of time away from their wives and kids to be here to raise our players as men. So they do a great job, and that discipline. I mean, penalties are a lot of times it's discipline, and our players are buying in because they truly, I believe, have the respect for us and trust that we have their best interest in mind and are going to put them in a good position and put the work in to do so as well.
Coach, defensively, only 13 points yesterday, right? So you have to be happy with that. You mentioned the turnovers you created. You get 3 of those. What's been the key defensively when things are going right?
Well, the big thing is we're taking the football back, and we've done a great job of creating some turnovers and really getting some of those back for touchdowns is huge, and being able to score there too. But like last night, we were able to go up 14-0. But they had the ball twice inside our 20-yard line for their first 2 possessions of the game, and they didn't come away with any points. So one of those being a 4th down stop inside our 5-yard line, and then another one being an interception on a 3rd down inside our 20-yard line. So being backs against the wall, we've been able to make some big stops right there, and then we're aggressive, and we got some guys that can really get after the quarterback. We're going to be aggressive and make sure some of these guys are uncomfortable. And then sometimes those translate into us getting opportunities to get the ball back.
Great stuff, Coach. We appreciate you coming on with us. We know how that fan base is down there in Louisville, so I'm sure things are pretty rowdy for you.
Yeah, it's been good. It's fun when you win, and the town's behind you, and the stands are filling up more and more each week, and a lot of people are seeing the work that we're putting in, that the kids are putting in, that we're doing things the right way and building this program for long-term success again. So I appreciate you guys having us on, and hope to see you again here soon.
Thanks, Coach. Leopard Nation, they always show out, Billy, right? Always show out. Leopard Nation loves their football, man. So congratulations to them. Doubled their win total. Like I said, 1-9 last year. They're 2-2 through 4 weeks. So that's a good, even though he doesn't like the starts they're getting off to in his games, right, Billy? 2-2 was a good start for them overall in the season.
Couldn't agree more. Love to see it. Shout out Mount Union. Coach Kappas was there when I was there.
There you go with your Mount Union shout outs. Okay. All right.
I bring my helmet with me and then put it on and all that for him.
Hey, my alma mater beat Wittenberg last week. That was our big rival, when I was in college way back in the day, right? So a good win for BW. Jim Trussell was on hand and everything. Yep. It is alma mater, and they got a win over Wittenberg. So we're coming for Mount Union. Well, I better not say that. It's like 30 in a row. Give
it a try. Yeah. I do want to plug real quick. Speaking of Coach Trussell, Coach Tom Daniels and his son Josh joined Coach Trussell on his podcast, which is called All About the Team. That'll be live this week on YouTube. So if you're kind of interested in that Stark County, McDaniels, Trussell, Ohio State kind of connection, I've watched that show before. He's had many different coaches on that show. It's a terrific watch. So I'm very excited to watch Coach McDaniels on there. So keep an eye out for that. It's called All About the Team on YouTube. It's a video podcast. So I love when we do this. Let's jump one coach to another here. Coach Kappas, we appreciate him joining us. Now to a coach that got his first win of the season last night, Coach Jeff Lindesmith. Coach, good morning, and a round of applause from Kenny Rhoda. What a way to start your Saturday.
Yeah, exactly. I appreciate that. Hey, good to be with you guys this morning.
Coach, we always appreciate the time. And, I looked at your schedule, joked at the banquet and everything. You're starting with 4 road games, tough teams. You hope that pays dividends down the road. But I was wondering, does the losing wear on you as a coach and the players? You get the win last night, so I'm sure that's going to alleviate some of the the stress or whatever was affecting your team. So congrats on the win. How'd you get it done last night? And how were the guys coming into the game last night?
Hey, you know what? Obviously, it's tough to well, first of all, if you have to go over to Salem last night, we have a bumper catch on fire right around Walmart on the way over. So we have a little bus transfer going on. And it's funny, 2 years ago on the way over, we had the same thing. We had something going on with our bus. And I go, maybe this is a good omen. We have to sit out on 62 for about a half hour and switch buses. But, going into the game last night, obviously the first 3 weeks has been a really learning experience for some of our kids. And we kind of knew that. We lost a lot of skill. We lost a lot of kids that made big plays for us. And sometimes when you start that way, you gotta grind the ball a little bit. We just didn't have somebody making explosive plays for us. And you got to just keep preaching to our kids what we're teaching them and how to play the game, and it'll turn around for us. And our kids have been great that way. Obviously it's nice to win because you gain a little confidence, but I think it's nice for our kids just to say, yeah, we can do this. We just got to stay at it, stay at the process. And they did that. We talk about our game last night at Salem. I think we finished up with about 480 yards of offense. Nice. We had a couple drives that stalled by penalty that really we could have put a lot more points on the board. Going into the game, we have not been very happy defensively. We've been giving up some big plays. Our secondary is a new guys, but we did a few things differently on coverage-wise. We adjusted some things. Our kids, I got to give them credit. We kind of put a new defense in a little bit last night to help some things, and it was the first time they in game conditions, and they really took to it well. They have an outstanding quarterback that can run the ball. Big kid, really good safety that we kind of controlled. He got a couple big plays in the second quarter against us, but we took the big play away from the other team, and that's what we wanted. Obviously, everybody talks about turnovers. We've turned the ball over for 3 weeks at a pretty good pace that we didn't want to do to put our defense in a bad position. And right. We didn't do that last night. We played a little bit more of smart football, and it helped. And it was an exciting game. You go to a 2 overtime game, and it was fun. It was a fun night.
Coach, did you feel like you had to make a major change to get that first win, or did you guys feel like we're going to keep riding out our game plan, our culture, and let it kind of peek through?
Offensively, we kept our culture. We kept what we did. We've had guys like Connor Thomas and Grady Noggle that played a lot of defense for us the last year. But this year on the offensive side, we wanted them to make some plays. We thought we could do some things. And last week at Orville, we did. We put 37 points up on the board. We thought we were finally coming around offensively. Defensively, to answer your question, we changed a lot. We did a lot of different things to try to get our linebackers freed up a little bit more. John Hoffager's our leading tackler, was back, and it just didn't seem to be playing downhill like he did last year. We moved some, made some adjustments, did some different fronts, some different things. We changed some coverages that we haven't ran. And it sure gets a head coach nervous because you work all summer and you think, schematically what we're doing should be pretty good for the kids that we had back. And we just didn't seem to play as fast as we wanted to. So we did some things different. And hopefully, I think it did help because this team can put some points on the board against us. But we'll see how the next week goes. But sometimes you feel pretty good when you have a thing that maybe freed some kids up. You got some more speed on the defense that the next week they should be a little bit better. Improvement should be there.
24-21 the final in double overtime. Central gets their first win over Salem. Take us through the game. Who stood out last night in the win, Coach? And it goes double overtime, which to me, I'm surprised. Usually somebody scores, right, in the first overtime. So take us through everything.
Well, you know what? I think we're down 14-7 at halftime. They get a long run in the third quarter. We got to 14-13 with them. We missed an extra point that put us behind. We went on an 80-yard drive right at the end of the third quarter to go up to and go for two and go up 21-14. Go back and forth a little bit. I think 2 series is punts. It's about 6 minutes to go. They punt it to us. We have our only turnover of the day on the punt return. that makes a 20-yard field. They could take it in maybe about 3 minutes. We went down, and I think we got to their 35, and unfortunately we got a couple penalties that set us behind the chains, and we've been kind of used to that being on the road for 4 weeks. But I'm sure they were really good calls. I just haven't analyzed the fourth quarter yet. And Kenny, sometimes I get a little bit excited over there, but
no, not
we'll
you.
see how that goes. But and so eventually it goes to overtime. We get the ball first. And on a fourth down play, they have a really nice knockdown in the end zone. So we don't score. So it doesn't look good for the Crusaders. They have a kicker that's kicking the ball out of the end zone, going through the uprights on kickoffs. Very, very good kicker. We get them. I think they were maybe got 3 yards on 3 plays. Obviously, you can see them setting up, where a left-footed kicker was going to go. We burn a timeout to make sure we were set on our rush. Braylon Tabellion just went airborne off the edge, blocked their field goal.
Wow.
Take us to the second overtime. Their second overtime, they get the ball first that time on a third down play. Tyler Cook makes an interception. We get the ball back. We moved it about 8 yards. We have our field goal kicker is a freshman kicker, and Axel Estrada, and he has never kicked a field goal in any games. He's just a freshman. Our Elijah Rossetti is our extra point kicker.
Right.
And so I'm going back and forth a little bit, but Axel is always, he's got a really strong leg. We line him up for, I don't know how far it was, 30-some yard field goal, I guess. And he kicks the thing maybe about 55 yards, right?
No kidding.
And kids were excited. It was nice for them. We work awfully hard, and finally they can feel a little bit of that victory. And it made it a long bus ride home with no problems, so a little bit better.
Now, I'm sure. And Billy, let me piggyback off that, because I want to go back to something you said from last week's loss. How much did that second half and putting those points up carry over into this week, even though you were 0-3, bringing some confidence into this game?
Yeah, it did. And my coaches did a good job of making sure our kids knew they did a good job. Sometimes you get in films and you just point out negative things, which, probably for the first 2 weeks, we wanted to learn a lot about our mistakes. But I told them we really wanted to focus a little bit on what we did well, and try to generate a little bit of positivity with them. That was really important for us to put 37 up. It's really hard when you give up 59 and not to sit and watch defense for 4 or 5 hours with your kids and show them every little mistake, every little thing that maybe they were taught that they didn't do, how to just relax in a game and trust what you've been taught and trust each other a little bit more. And I think that's getting there for us.
Coach, freshman kicker makes the game-winning overtime field goal for first win of the year. I think that's a TV movie I'd watch. I'm all about it.
There you go. You guys are always about producing things. I just love it. That's awesome. Hey, we should get a cut then, right? I would think off of that.
We'll get you in. We'll get
10%, Coach. We'll give you 10%.
Right,
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. Now, did he have the bright green shoes like what Dan Mills did when you won the state championship?
Oh my gosh, he does have a soccer shoe on, and he's a big kid for us. He's I'm guessing Axel's probably about 5'10", about 245, a beast, probably the strongest kids in our weight room. And I was told he has some Mexican descent to him. I guess he's a great soccer player. I've never seen him, but it's kind of hard, I think, on a soccer field to have an offense and a defensive lineman be incredible, but he's incredible with his feet. And my kids tell me sometimes he shows up to soccer practices and just manages the ball around. I don't know a whole lot about that game, but they said he's pretty good with it. So he did hammer it. He's a good kid. He's going to, he kicks off for us, and he's got a big, strong leg.
Yeah, and you know what, Billy? And this Ted Lasso, football is life. For him, football really is life. He plays football and football. So you've got somebody Ted Lasso would be proud of.
Yeah, there you go. I don't know who that is, Kenny. I don't know who he plays for. I don't know.
I wonder if we're going to see Coach Lindesmith at a bunch of different sports here, Kenny, just recruiting, seeing if he's at the golf practice, just seeing what, seeing who's who.
There you go. No, I don't think that's going to happen. I don't have much time. Those guys go do that golf during the day too much. No way. But it was nice. It was a nice win for us. And obviously it was kind of fun because we have a pretty good close group of freshmen. Obviously they don't play, and I was kind of watching the field as it went through, and those guys went crazy. And our varsity kids are excited, but I think our freshman guys ran out and just buried that poor Axel in the ground, and it was fun to see.
Hey, walk-off winner on the road. You got to love that, Coach, for your first win of the season. Next up, I look at the schedule. Hey, finally a home game at Kleinfelder Stadium. About time. I fire that AD. So what's it mean coming home with a win, and you've got Alliance next week?
Yeah, one thing that's nice is it's going to be nice a little bit for the not worrying about pregame meals before we get on the bus, making sure the bus is there, setting meetings a little bit early, kind of getting on a little bit of routine here at after school makes it nice. Our kids have always handled it well, and I'm not saying 4-way. It's going to probably make it nice more for my wife and our fans.
Right.
They're not worried about travel and things like that. It'll make it nice that way. I know our kids are excited to be at home. Obviously, you'll get a little bit more fan base. We'll get a little bit more student body, although they showed up last night pretty well. To be comfortable in a home spot, that's good, but our kids know it's football, and one thing we've always concentrated on, it doesn't matter where you go, it's between the white lines, and your concentration, focus, and execution is going to be there. But I'm kind of looking forward to not getting on that bus, and especially after the game, trying to get down those steps and cleaning the bus out and things like that for us. But it'll be nice.
Well, thank you, Coach. Appreciate you coming on with us. Good luck the rest of the season, and hope to talk with you again.
I appreciate it, guys. Have a great day.
All right, thanks, Coach. Trucker getting the first win, yeah. And the team they're playing, Alliance, got their first win last night as well. So that'll be a good matchup. Two teams coming off a win with some momentum, squaring off at Central Catholic next week.
Love it. Speaking of Alliance, let's shift to our next guest here, Coach Tim
How
Goodman.
about that? It's like I knew he was coming that I used that little segue to bring in, Coach. How are you this morning, Coach?
Doing well. Always good after a victory.
What stood out in the win as you watched film? You saw it last night, but then you go watch film on it. So what stood out for you in that 46-24 win?
Yeah, just finally kind of, listen to Trucker a little bit and kind of sound like we're talking about the same team. We're a young team. We lost a lot of talent from last year's team, and just watching us progress over those 3 weeks and, those final scores, I don't think were indicative of the progress our team was making. So being able to see us put it all together on both sides of the ball, offensively and defensively, and play a 4-quarter game, it was good to see our kids execute and kind of take that next step forward.
Coach, for the few teams in the county that have struggled out of the gates, it seems schedule has been a theme for them. Do you feel like that's been the thing for you guys, a tough schedule?
Yeah, I heard Kenny joking with Trucker about the AD. I'm not happy with my AD either. We played 3 darn good football teams to start the year. Parma Padua got some dudes. They got a running back at Division I offers. They have one of the better linemen I've seen in my career going to Ohio University. And then, Louisville's getting it figured out, and they're a tough team themselves. And then Streetsboro, I don't think a lot of people know about Streetsboro, but they are a very, very, very good football team. They're going to have a special year this year. So going those first 3 games, I like it because it got us battle ready. We found out a lot about ourselves, and it got us ready for this next stretch of games as we finish out our Odyssey season and get into the EBC.
Yeah, and you always want to get ready for conference play, and that will definitely, get you ready. But go back to last night, Coach. Take us through who stood out for you. You put up 46 points, high-scoring affair, fun game to watch. So even on defense, I'm sure there were some plays that were made as well. So who stood out last night?
Yeah. Offensively, our run game has been coming along each of those first 3 weeks. We saw it clicking. We saw our line was in the right spot. We knew it was going to pop off. So Ravon Hawkins had a big game. He had 150 yards rushing and 3 touchdowns. We did make a quarterback change this week. We put J.R. Jackson, who is a dynamic playmaker for us at quarterback, and just getting the ball in his hands more often. That's something we were trying to do at keeping him a receiver, but we said, hey, let's put him back there and let's let him throw it around and run around. And he had a huge game, threw for 215 and a couple touchdowns, then ran for 130 himself and a touchdown. So having that dynamic of that 2-headed monster kind of reminds me of some teams we've had in the past year at Alliance. And then defensively, big credit to Bo Davis. Bo Davis was our starting quarterback the first 3 weeks. and he, we took him out of quarterback, but he was our starting safety. And, in today's day and age, a lot of kids don't handle that adversity well. But he went out there and had 2 interceptions. We blocked a punt. He returned it for a touchdown. So he handled it about as well as you can handle it. You get dealt a blow like that, but he said, okay, I'm going to go make an impact somewhere else. So he had a monster game for us defensively.
Coach, I want to go back. You talked about the talent that moved on for you guys. And I think a lot of people just think, oh, they graduated, they're down those guys, that's it. Those guys leave an impact, right? Not just with talent, but leadership.
Yeah.
A guy like Brendan Zerbrugg, some of the other guys that graduated, I'm sure you're more keyed in on that than us. What kind of impact did those guys leave on this team?
Yeah, I mean, really big in what, especially schools like us, what you don't understand is a lot of those guys were 3-year starters. So you're not only replacing seniors, you're replacing guys that played a lot of football, and then you're replacing them with guys that haven't played a lot of varsity football. But those guys left a huge impact. They really kind of established the culture I wanted to establish when we got here, and that you see that credit. You asked Strucker how his kids dealt with the losing, and it's always tough to deal with losing, but our kids handled it about as well as you could. We didn't get dejected. We didn't get down on ourselves. We saw ourselves getting better, and we knew we were going to be just fine moving forward. And you think you lose 3 games to start the year, you're going to have some bad practices. We've had 4 great weeks of practice, and that's credit to our kids now, but it's also credit to those kids that graduated that kind of set that standard that we're trying to uphold each and every day here.
We're going to have Coach Dennison on a little later. I'm going to ask him the same question. Life without Poochie, life without Brendan, right? I mean, like you said, 3 4-year starters, 2 3-way play, kicked, he punted, he did everything for you and all of that. So I'm curious, your off season in trying to figure it out. And you said you made the QB change last night. It's got to be tough filling that huge hole of somebody who meant so much to the team. So how did you go about doing it? And do you think maybe now you're moving in that right direction?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you're going to get the same answer from Coach Dennison. You're never going to replace Brendan Zerber. You're never going to replace Poochie Snyder. And that's something we talked about this offseason, that we can't rely. You kind of saw at the beginning, we're relying on somebody to make something out of nothing. And it's like, we don't have that luxury anymore. We got to execute all 11 of us. And we saw it this week. And then, putting a guy like J.R. Jackson back there, who's a special athlete himself. He's an all-state basketball player. He led the county in interceptions last year. He was a really good receiver for us. But putting him back there, and he kind of does some things that Brendan did well for us as well. But I think our kids are understanding life without Brendan, that it's got to be all 11 of us. It can't be, 8 or 9 of us executing and Brendan making another 2 right. It's got to be all 11 of us doing it right every play.
Coach, you mentioned that position change, right? You're moving guys around, you're changing things up. Where do those ideas come from? Is that something you noticed last week? Is that a position coach says, hey, we should try this? Is that a player says, hey, I've been scoring a lot, I'd really like to try quarterback? Where does that idea come from?
I think it was all 3, to be honest with you. I think, it's definitely a collaborative idea or conversation between all of us as coaches. At the end of the day, as coaches, we're just trying to put our kids in the best position to be successful in division as a team. And so you're constantly having those talks basically every single day, reflecting after games. Our quarterback coach who works with those guys day in and day out says, this kid could bring this kind of dynamic, and talks to me about that. And then a kid like JR who's played quarterback growing up, was his head coach, if you want to give me a shot back there, I'm more than willing. And JR's a team guy. He's going to do whatever we ask him to do. So just, we went in this week of practice and said, hey, let's take a look at it and see how it shakes out. I got to try something to spice up the offense. We were struggling a little bit offensively to start the year. And I think that collaboration paid off last night, because we had a pretty good game offensively last night.
All right. So as a coach, the next question is, that's in the rearview mirror. We're looking out the windshield. It's Central next. What do you got to do to make this 2 wins in a row and get a road victory?
Yeah, I mean, we got to stay hungry. That's first and foremost. That's what we kind of thought about going to Ella, that we were both 0-3 and 0-3, and somebody had to win, and we were both hungry. And now same thing. We're both 1-3. We're both hungry. What Central's always well coached. They're always tough. They're going to make you earn a victory no matter what. So we got to keep that hunger. We got to be super, super disciplined this week. And then we just got to keep growing. We just got to keep getting better. And like you said, not be content and satisfied with winning our first game. We got to go out and get that next one now.
Really exciting stuff happening at Alliance right now. A great win for Coach Goodman. Coach, we appreciate you coming in. As always, I know we've had a chaotic morning here, so we appreciate you kind of waiting and then jumping on with us. And we're wishing you luck. Hope to see you again.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Appreciate you having me on.
And go give that AD a talking to about that schedule early on, Coach. Well done there. So how about that? Central first win. Alliance first win. Now those two will be both looking for their second win. One of the two is going to get it next week, no matter what, as Alliance travels to Central.
Love to see it, Kenny. I think this is a good opportunity. We're going coach to coach to coach to coach here in just a second, but a chance to shout out our title sponsor here in Dan Brocker's Import Automotive. We've been talking about them for 2 years, Kenny, and for good reason.
Yeah, they're simply the best, right? They specialize in the maintenance and repair of European and Asian cars. So if you're driving one of those, this is where you want to take it for regular maintenance, or if something does break down. 330-966-3923 is the number. You can also hit them up in that Gmail address over there in the upper left-hand corner. They know what they're doing. You can trust. You want a guy or a gal you can trust no matter what it is, right? Especially with cars. Well, you can trust them, and you see all the services that they offer here. As far as whatever your make is, and then what it needs done to it. Simply go there, tell them Billy and Kenny sent you from the Saturday morning huddle to Dan Brocker's Import Automotive, and they will take great care of you. And like I said, you can trust them, and you won't have to take it anywhere else after that.
And hey, look at the names on the right side, the cars there. I mean, you can't take those just anywhere, right? Those are cars. I know the owners of those type of cars, and being like you talked about us, when we know what we know about cars, it's you want to know everything's going to go okay.
I don't know anything about cars. So when I take my car somewhere, right, I want them to be the experts and the people that I can trust, that aren't going to, hey, this needs fixed, but oh yeah, this also, and it really didn't. You know what I mean? You don't want to have to pay for more than you actually need. So take it there to Dan Brocker's Import Automotive, and you'll be a happy person to get your car taken care of by them.
All right,
Billy, do we have our next coach yet, or do we have
our next guest? Yeah.
Oh, let's move right along then. I love it. Look at this. There we go. Opa! How about that big win last night? Perry takes down Lake 17-7 in the Federal League lid lifter, and a great atmosphere and a great game. Zach Slates, Joy. Who do you have with us here, Coach Slates?
I have Austin Maddox with us here.
All right. I thought that was Austin. The helmet was on too much, Austin. I didn't see all of your face, but I saw some of it last night. We'll get to you here in a second. Congrats on the win. Coach, what was the key in a big Federal League matchup to get that big home win last night?
I mean, just finishing. That was a big thing we talked about this week, is finishing every play and worrying about the play we're on. Can't let one mishap turn into six. And I think our kids responded this week and had a good week of practice, and we got tougher this week in practice. It was a real physical week for us, and the kids responded to that. So that was good to see. And obviously our defense playing really well and not giving up big plays and keeping them in front of us and filling our gaps and making sure everything stays in front.
Coach, when you have an opponent like Lake, does it give you some comfortability knowing you know what they've done this year? You've played them before, you've seen their schedule, or do you kind of enjoy sometimes, hey, you don't know too much about them, you can come in fresh with a game like this? What was your mindset knowing it's the Lake Blue Streaks, your old foe?
Yeah, I mean, you can't get comfortable with anybody, especially in the Federal League. If you get comfortable, you get complacent, and that's what we're telling our kids. And it is somebody that we play every year, so we know a little bit more. But again, it's a different team. Every year is a different team, and they just do some different things this year than they have in the past. And they're a really good team, and they're physical and tough, and that's what we focused on this week because we knew what a good team they were.
All right, Austin, I want to jump to you. Big game from you last night as you threw for 69. You get a pick on defense as well. You're playing both ways for Coach Slate. So you're playing on offense for Coach Slates and on defense for Coach Wakefield. So let's start with is it the old man? Is he vintage? Is it the OG? I'm not sure what to call Coach Wakefield. So Austin, what's it like playing for him?
It's great. He pushes us every day at practice and makes sure everything we do is 100% effort.
And then on the offensive side for Coach Slates, as he's calling plays, we're seeing you guys throw the ball more this year. We joke with him about it all the time. You're the quarterback there at Perry now. How much fun is it that that's becoming a bigger part of your offense?
It's great because we have weapons outside to throw to, and we have Kyson, JJ, and Wolf, and they catch about everything I throw to them.
And Austin, you've been there a few years now. I feel like you've gone through kind of a journey in Perry football. What makes this year different for you personally than the past few years?
Our preparation throughout the off season. A lot of times during the summer, we got guys together and we ran routes on the field. Just getting our timing well, and our guys in the weight room just getting bigger and stronger and faster.
Coach, double pass, double reverse on the final drive. Look, you're smiling, right? I'm standing on your sideline, and I'm looking around like this. I'm like, who's calling those plays? Part of the game plan going in that you saved those for certain times, and it was key because that was the finishing drive to put that one away for you guys with a touchdown.
Yeah, I mean, we knew we had to score on that drive, and we knew we had to run the ball and do some of those things. And yeah, I mean, we were everything was on the table last night, so we wanted to make sure we secured that win, and we had to do it with our offense and getting that score at the end and finishing it with a touchdown. The field goal wasn't any good at that point, so we had to get put in the end zone.
But I know a field goal wasn't any good on that drive. We got to talk about this, Billy. Throw it up on it here. Brock Huggins, we're watching in pregame warmups up in that far press box that you see in the stands. And he goes out to the 25-yard line, then the 30, then the 35. He's out to the 40. Then he goes to the 45-yard line, and he's booming them through. So what is his range, and how big of a weapon is this to have?
It's huge, and having somebody that can kick it in the end zone every time on kickoffs. And I mean, he's made them from 57 yards in practice, and so having somebody that can do that and has that capabilities, I mean, it extends your offense a little bit because we're able to get some points 3-yard line, and we're able to line up for a field goal. So we didn't have to just punt from there. So having that weapon is always great for your offense, great for your defense on kickoff.
Brock Huggins is the kid we're talking about, 5'11", 175-pound senior. And the great thing, even if he misses it, ball comes out to the 20-yard line. So no big deal. Take a chance for 3 points. Don't get it. Then you put your good old defense out there that's given up 22 total points on the season, Coach, right? And let them go to work. And they've been phenomenal, haven't they?
Absolutely. Yeah, the defense has been great. They've been keeping everything in front and staying square in the line of scrimmage and trying to keep people bottled up.
Austin, on that play, I know we don't have the volume here, but first thing I noticed was reaction. He knocks that thing down. Everybody goes nuts on the sideline. What were you doing when he made that field goal?
I was screaming for him, and I was just really happy for Brock because all his hard work is just showcased right there.
Coach, you didn't get up in the boot? I thought you might give a little jump in the air there.
Yeah,
I'm not getting up in the air right now. Got that.
I was going to say, what happened, Coach? I saw you in the boot yesterday. Billy pointed it out. You all right? Did one of your guys roll up on you like an old offensive lineman or something like that?
Nah, I just got a medical issue and just got to wear a boot.
All right, very good.
Grinding through it. Love to see it. Hey, guys, we appreciate you jumping on with us. A huge win, a great opening to Federal League play. Austin, congrats on a great season so far. Appreciate you joining us. And, guys, thank you again.
Thanks for having us. Appreciate it.
All right, and we got to go. Do we have time or do we have another coach coming up right now, Billy?
Trying to work things out with Spider here. So if you need a minute, go ahead.
Well, I got to talk about the food fight challenge, the WHBC food fight challenge, sure. Because last night they are the defending champs at Perry High School. Chef Adam Cron and his students at 3737 Kitchen brought it strong last year, and they ended up being crowned the champions. And we were wondering, all right, how will the champs show up this year? All right, and there's Chef Cron. As we did an interview with him, we said, how do you feel? He says, I feel pretty good. This was our menu yesterday. That's what we had, and there's a picture of it there with the outstanding food that he and his students made for us. We had the NOLA barbecue shrimp po' boy, pulled bacon steamed buns, barbecue grilled chicken sandwiches. All right, that's the top of the menu. The salad, I had never had grilled watermelon salad before, with candied bacon, blue cheese, and the berry vinaigrette dressing. You can see the color there was to die for. My goodness, it was fantastic. And then there's our dessert, grilled pineapple cheesecake. Okay, and they made homemade potato chips for us as well. And so 3737 kitchen, the students, Chef Cron, again, living up to what they posted last year as the champs, and that's going to be tough to be. Billy, so far, GlenOak, we had the surf and turf. Last week, we had the homemade apple and strawberry pies and the chicken noodle casserole from Antonio Hall's mom. It is going to be tough to crown a champion this year, but I will say this. We're going to wait till the end of the year. We're not going to go week to week with our standings, but everybody so far has put on a few pounds and are extremely happy with all the schools that are participating. And yesterday's menu and meal near the top of everybody's list so far, as we are only in week number 4 in the WHBC Press Box Food Fight Challenge.
Chef Cron, a past winner, so no surprise that his squad put that together for you. Really went for that sweet flavoring, right? They go strawberry, they go pineapple, even barbecue has a little sweetness to it, right? So
he sprinkled in a little spice, some jalapeno peppers and some seasoning on. So it was a little, he hit your palate. You got a little bit of everything yesterday from Chef Cron and his kids. They had a busy day. And Billy, you can go there. I think it's Wednesdays and Thursdays starting October 2nd. And you can actually go there for lunch. And you can follow them on Twitter and Instagram at 3737 Kitchen and find out what's going on, or just call the high school because you can get there. And I recommend it highly. If you wanted a different lunch and the students are learning, and I brought some back, Billy. Don't tell anybody. I brought some back. I'm having them for lunch today. That's how many they made for. I know now on the road to take containers so I can, get some leftover food for the next day. That's how good it was. But unfortunately, the dessert, the pineapple cheesecake, that was gone. There wasn't any of that to take back.
Love it. Love that you were eating good. I got to shout out Tim Beitler of GlenOak. He revealed to me he's a caterer on the side, some other stuff he does. So when I walked into the press box and saw a crock pot in the corner with Italian sausage, I knew I was in good hands to eat there. So always fun talking food on the program here, Kenny. And while we're on the subject of food, I think this is a great opportunity to shift things over to our Marianne Donuts sweet play of the week. I personally, and I know you've seen it, I've shown it on the show, every Saturday I'm waking up with Marianne Donuts. I've got a breakfast sandwich in here. And it's the bacon, egg, and cheese on an English muffin. I had it the first week. Love it. Love it. That's going to be a go-to for me when I stop by there. Definitely on Saturdays, but, other days of the week too, because, I've got that early shift with Canton's Morning News. So when I'm done at 10, it's perfect, like breakfast for lunch type of deal. I'll swing over there and get that breakfast sandwich. But the sweet play of the week does come from McKinley and GlenOak. This is we showed this earlier. Cam Montgomery to Xavier Harris, a 50-yard bomb. And I wanted to slow-mo this because when that one-on-one comes, that ball's floating in the air. That's tough to track down. No issue here, and a terrific catch.
Yeah, he stepped up in the pocket. The protection broke down a little bit. He rolls to his left, right, and then airs it out. And right on the money, the Marianne Donuts sweet play of the week. Look at it there. It felt the pressure, and I talked about their offensive line. That's got to get better. Well, Cam Montgomery's adjusting to maybe not a very good offensive line right now and stepping up in the pocket like a good quarterback should. Kept his eyes downfield, found his man, delivered the ball for the Marianne Donuts. sweet play of the week. As sweet as sugar on one of those donuts bright and early. That's my go-to when I'm up early. What does Pam cook? What's her favorite flavor of donut for Canton's Morning News? You got to find that out and take the Boston Donuts if you want to score points.
Yeah, it's a good idea. I know she likes the specialty stuff, so I know she likes that apple cider or trying different things, which I can appreciate. I'm an OG sprinkles guy with a little bit of icing. And then I appreciate, like I said, breakfast sandwiches are great because it's the perfect time of day for me where it's still morning, but I'm technically eating lunch because I wake up at 3:30. So a breakfast sandwich is perfect for me during the week. And we appreciate Marianne Donuts jumping on board with us. Big thing there, Kenny, and you got to watch out for it. Seasonal stuff is huge right now. I know we all have somebody in our life that loves that pumpkin, that apple cider, that latte with apple cider or pumpkin in it. I know those will be huge right now, so we appreciate Marianne Donuts. And again, let's take one more look at it. This is the sweet play of the week. Cam Montgomery to Xavier Harris. And again, that ball's up in the air. What a play to make with that thing floating around. And you talked about it. I think it's equally impressive. Montgomery kind of shaking the pocket there and then making a good throw.
Love that he kept his eyes down the field, right? A lot of times guys will tuck it and run there, and he did run for 50 yards, I think, yesterday, Billy. But when you have receivers like that, you have to give them a chance to go up and make a play. And that ball was perfectly placed. The coverage wasn't bad, just a better play by the quarterback and the wide receiver.
And hey, for the first time, honorable mention for the sweet play of the week because we had tough calls to make here.
Yep.
I'll say again, Perry, and you witnessed it live. 50 yards in high school is tough to do. So Perry getting a school record 50-yarder there from Brock Huggins. Setting a record is sweet. What's more sweet than setting a record? So honorable mention for that one. And again, I enjoyed watching this GlenOak pick 6 here by Adrian Burt. The quarterback turned free safety on this play and a huge block on Montgomery there. That was sweet to watch. And then Burt dashing down the field. GlenOak needed that touchdown, Kenny. It was huge for them just to get back on the right track. I love doing that segment. That's been such a fun segment for us this year. Really, really fun stuff. That game was terrific. We talked about McKinley and GlenOak a little bit. Yes, McKinley gets the big win, 35-6. They win it. Big plays on offense, forced turnovers on defense. They were in Adrian. It's Adrian. I always get him and his brother mixed up.
Just call him Milk.
Yeah, Milkbird. There you go. In his face all night, causing trouble for him. Technically knocked him out of the game. So it was a great night. However, again, 15 penalties for 145 yards. That takes a coach's mind away from a win. And I want to play the interview I did with Coach Antonio Hall, Kenny, because I think it gives good insight to, it's a long season, and even in wins, coaches have certain thoughts. So let's go to it.
Yeah, we'll have you here with Coach Antonio Hall. Go ahead.
Here with Coach Antonio Hall. Coach, offense got going early, took a quick break, and then the deep ball was certainly working for you, got you back in it. What is it about those deep plays that works for you guys?
We got tremendous talent on the edge, and we have a really good quarterback. It's just making sure that they're in sync and they're clicking and they're seeing the same things, and when they do, they can make special things happen.
Keith Quincy, a big night for him. You guys certainly fed him the ball plenty. Was that a game plan, or was that just as the game kind of went on, you wanted to get him the rock?
A little bit of both. We plan to hopefully get the ball 5 to 7 times, see what he does, but we had to get to him a little bit more than that, and he's a guy, if you get the ball in his hands, he can make magic happen.
Even in a win tonight, Coach, a lot of penalties, a lot of fumbles. How do you kind of correct that quickly, even with a win?
That starts with me. I got to get on my coaches, make sure we clean this stuff up. All season we've had the penalty bug. I'm a little irritated, a little peeved, and I got to get that corrected.
Understandable. Got Coach McDaniels up there. Any message for him?
Coach, don't hold those penalties against me. I'm working on it.
He's laughing. Appreciate it, Coach. Thank you.
I know that. Believe me.
Yeah, Coach McDaniels, we talked about him in details earlier in the show, right? So, hey, Antonio knows there are guys like Coach McDaniels from the program, right, that are watching. So I guarantee you this week as they get ready for Perry, they know they can't have those types of penalties and that many of them next week if they're going to beat a very, very, very good Perry team.
that matchup last year went McKinley's way. I also feel like you were at that game, I believe. Feel like McKinley passed the ball well in that one last year at Perry. So now the Pups get the chance to come home. Obviously, they face a different Perry team, but
right.
Hey, if they can get back to throwing the ball downfield, and that maybe one thing about the Federal League, Kenny, is they are run heavy and a lot of impressive runners within the Federal League. So to have a team that's bombing it down the field, that'll be an interesting matchup for Perry defensively. And one more time, Keith Quincy, he was the one this week, the Community One Credit Union Player of the Week. 148, 8 catches, a touchdown, and a pick on the other side of things, Kenny. Again, if you had him on your fantasy team, that's about 32-ish points. That's a hell of a week for Keith Quincy. You can go back if you missed it. We had an interview with him. That's all over our social media, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Give us a follow and check that out. We appreciate Community One Credit Union. Big week for Keith Quincy. Big week for the Pups. I'll look at another game we had on our SARTA stream game of the week.
All right.
A Federal League matchup once again between Green as they traveled to Hoover. Hoover back on the right track last week. Green about the same. Both these teams 2-1 headed into this one. So we kind of had our eyes on this, Kenny, as, hey, can one team here kind of separate a little bit from the pack and head to the top of the Fed? Back and forth early. Hoover snags that lead just before halftime. It's 10-7. Green grabs control late. They kind of go up 2 scores. Now Hoover scores late, recovers an onside kick, and had one last try towards the end of this one. But it seemed like after halftime, Green took control of this thing and ran the table.
Yeah, Green's a very good football team. Mark Geist does a great job with that program. And you got Orange and Black, Bulldogs, Vikings, and a tough break for Hoover as they found out that their outstanding wide receiver, quarterback, defensive back, kick returner, everything. Zach Brocker out for the season with a knee injury. So that means the quarterback is John Collins. Collins had a 5-yard touchdown run and a 10-yard touchdown run yesterday, but just not enough for Hoover as they come up on the short end. You see a great play there on the interception. So they're going to have to go back to the drawing board now, 0-1 in the Federal League, 2-2 on the season, and see how they can get better, where Green improves this week, I think now to 3-1 on the year and 1-0 in the Federal League. So Mark Geist and that Green team, very, very good. I think we have the interview with Mark Geist we can play right here, Billy, from last night?
Yeah, our Derek Philo joined Mark Geist after the game, and I think a good opportunity here, Kenny, to hear from Mark Geist, because clearly Green is going to be a team in the mix in the Federal League, and I know we've got Jackson at Green next week on the YouTube game of the week, so let's hear from Coach.
Derek Philo, WHBC Sports here with our SARTA stream game of the week. I'm here with Coach Mark Geist from the Green Bulldogs. Coach, great win tonight. It was almost a playoff atmosphere early in the season, and you gotta be proud of your boys for coming through in the end like that.
Yeah, there's no doubt. I mean, you opened up the Federal League play in a great stadium and against a great, not our rival, but I think even Coach Baum and I talked about how we're developing a good, respect with this competition, and what a great crowd. And then, to open up Federal League play 1-0, I thought it was going to take some great effort and some guys to step up in key positions. And I am more than proud to say, our backs were against the wall a few times in this game, more than a few times.
Yeah, heck yeah.
And we answered with some guys that maybe haven't had some experience out there. And we had 2 All-Ohioans stand on the sideline tonight. And but proud of the guys that were out there making it happen.
And you got to give one of those guys, Hunka, great game management tonight. Sure. Came in tonight, did what he had to do to manage that game, and didn't try to do too much there. Can you speak towards him?
As soon as he settled down and relied on his fundamentals and went to work, just doing the basics of what we preach day in and day out, it was easily seen that we were going to be fine. We're going to be able to move the football. Heck, we came out and scored on that second play just on our first day install play. And he read it correctly and made it happen.
Yeah, obviously Antonio Martin, big name, did his thing. You guys got the ball to him on the outside, allowed him to, just do what he does on the outside. But speak towards him, getting him back.
Just his presence in our locker room and who he is on the sideline. It changes everything on our football team, and we know that. he's our heartbeat. He has been for a few years. Like he's a 4-year starter for a reason, but he brought a lot of energy in that locker room before we came out. It was pretty fun to see those guys' faces and
That's good.
ready to go.
Anthony Fortunato comes out second half, huge 48-yard touchdown, huge interception, and then a huge knockdown at the end of the game. Like, man, what a heck of a second half for Anthony.
It was tremendous. I mean, he gave us great effort last week, and he was even battling some injuries in previous to the last couple of weeks, but finally getting him healthy and seeing him, we know what he's capable of, and I think a lot of times because they're twins, they're a little pretty competitive.
Yeah.
And I know he's giving it to his brother right now about the game he's been playing. So.
And then last but not least, Coach, I know you just said it to somebody else, but I loved hearing what you had to say about your boys. Go home and watch football this weekend. End of a game. Almost gave it away at the end, but it's a great learning experience.
And we were celebrating a little too early.
Yeah.
I don't think, I don't know if we realized what was going on. That's on us, but I think, today's society, we don't watch enough football and just learn the game, and that's what, our guys got to understand that, you don't celebrate anything until there's 0, 0, 0, 0 on that clock. So.
Coach, great win tonight. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Yep.
Billy, how about Green getting back Antonio Martin? Tears his ACL last year in basketball. He's their best all-around player.
Yeah.
And it's kind of ironic. Hoover loses a kid to an ACL tear, their best all-around player, and Zach Rocker and Antonio Martin coming back for Green. And that's going to be a problem for a lot of defensive coordinators in the Federal League moving forward.
Yeah, again, a couple notes from this game. I think Green is a player in the Federal League, so they're somebody to watch. I'm excited to do their game on Friday night. Stick with us on the Alt Care YouTube Game of the Week. I believe that'll be rewatchable, so make sure you kind of subscribe with us, and we'll keep you updated on that. A note from Green, too, Kenny, look at the names they listed that made plays. It took everybody in that one. It took good quarterback play. It took playmaking from Antonio Martin, and we're going to look at that interception again by Fortunato. Last second, cuts the inside of that wide receiver and snags the ball, and that was a momentum turner, too. If you look at how this game went, Hoover really needed that touchdown to kind of feel like they were still in it. Now, they made some plays late to do that. However, if you think about it, I believe that was a late third quarter interception, Kenny. So for Fortunato, who Coach Geist mentioned was dealing with injuries, steps up and gets that pick. I believe it's coming up here. So you get that. You get Antonio Martin. Here it is. Boom.
Look at that. Jumping
right
in front of jumping on the top of the receiver, coming up with the pick. And how about Tyson Hunka? I call him Sergeant Hulka, the big toe, with 3 touchdown passes, 34 yards to Antonio Martin, 59 yards to Reed, and 46 yards to Fortunato, who had the interception as well. A great game, 2 evenly matched teams going at each other, and only 2 points, decides the difference in that one. So Green starting to get rolling in the right direction and getting Martin back. That's going to be a big boost for them.
Completely agree. And then a final note for Hoover. They've got their quarterback. Their quarterback is set.
Unfortunately, right? I mean,
circumstances, no doubt. But I'm interested to see how that kind of just factors into like week to week. Maybe guys are more settled. I don't know. I just think that's an interesting storyline.
Anytime you lose, if he was a wide receiver only this year, Zach Rocker would be mentioned in the top 3 wide receivers in the county. They tried him at quarterback, and unfortunately he gets hurt and he's done for the year. So that's a huge loss. They've got to now try and figure out a way to play without him for the rest of the season. And as you mentioned, Collins will be the guy. That they can rely on the running game as well as trying to figure out the passing game.
Yeah, we will have a terrific slate of games coming up this week on WHBC Sports. Full coverage, our Alt Care YouTube Game of the Week. Kenny, on our Altman Health Systems Game of the Week, give me yours.
We are at Northwest, as Northwest will host Fairless in a Pac-7 matchup. Both teams we thought would be 4-0. Unfortunately, both teams lost last night. So they're 3-1 coming into that game. So that'll be a lot of fun. Dan Belford, yours truly, Mark Miller, Denny Kincaid will be out at Northwest. They treat us like kings in Northwest. We love going out to Canal Fulton. And that'll be our radio game of the week on WHBC and Mix 94.1.
the SARTA Stream Game of the Week, streaming live on WHBC.
Try it again.
Game. I got too many C's going here. They will be GlenOak at Lake. So that is a terrific matchup that everybody's going to want to kind of check out there audio-wise. And then, again, for us on the YouTube channel, we will be Jackson at Green. And Jackson, another team that is on the up and up, 2 in a row for them after losing their first 2 games. And is the Federal League going to be nuts? Are things going to be really, really crazy this year? And again, just because of how competitive it is.
I think it'll come down to the last week in determining either a solo champion, co-champions, tri-champions. Anything is possible right now to me, based on what I've seen so far. Okay, I've seen Perry play, I've seen GlenOak play, I've seen McKinley play, I've seen Lake play. Okay, to me, Perry, if they can continue to develop that passing game to complement their running game, they are big up front on both sides of the ball. Their defense is the best in the county. I'll put Masslin's defense up there with Perry's right now. Those 2 are the best defenses in the county. Lake's a close third, but Lake last night, their aggressiveness was used against them by Perry in designing plays to beat them 17-7. So yeah, this Federal League thing may come down to the final games of Week 10.
WHBCsports.com. That's where you want to go to both look at what we'll be broadcasting, look at the games coming up. You got articles from Mark Miller breaking down what happened in the county. Those are always a great read for me personally, to see what his thoughts, former Bowling Green quarterback, former Cleveland Browns quarterback, to get inside that a little bit. And again, following us, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and subscribing on YouTube. That leads you to all our content, including the show here. Kenny, as we wrap up, we got to thank all our guests. A terrific slate today. 5 different coaches: Coach Kappas, Coach Lindesmith, Coach Goodman, Coach Dennison, and Coach Slates. Actually, we missed Coach Dennison, I guess. But
yeah, I was going to say, Coach that probably had some more film to look at this morning. He and Spider, even after wins, right? They're both looking at the film to make sure they get things right for next week.
Spider got wrapped up in the JV, which I understand that happens too. That's not always easy to do live there. And then we want to shout out one more time, Dan Brockers, Import Automotive, terrific sponsor of ours, terrific supporter of ours. They've been repairing complex foreign cars and domestic cars for 3/4 of a century locally. That kind of longevity is built on trust. You don't have to know anything about carburetors or defibrillators for trust to matter. That's why it's going to matter. The Brockers family has you covered. Real tools, real training, real trust. Go to brockersimport.com.
And Billy, I was a little offended that you didn't mention Ken's top 10 on WHBCsports.com. Yeah, I mean, come on now. I get all kind of flack from JT, from Rick Worstel. I figure, okay, I plan on getting it from them, but from you, my partner here on the Saturday morning huddle, not to say, hey, take a look at Ken's top 10 coming up on Monday for Week 4 to see where your high school team is. That one hurt, man. That one hurt.
No, and good point. I agree. I think you're getting enough little comments on Facebook from people and whatnot. But
bring them. I can handle them. You don't like where I have your team ranked? That's fine, and I do my rankings a little different than everybody else, Billy. For Ken's top 10, I go based on where I see these teams down the road and how far they can go maybe in the playoffs based on their current record. And we only have one undefeated team in Stark County that we cover that, we rank, and that's Malvern. They're 4-0. That's it. Everybody else has one loss. So tune in Monday morning to WHBCsports.com and WHBC.com to see Ken's top 10 and who the number 1 team in the county is in my eyes for right now.
Unbelievably, we are headed to Week 5.
Unreal.
Of high school football. I can't believe it myself. It feels like we just started. It feels like we were just in Oregon, getting things going. Very excited for how things are shaking up this year in Stark County. I want to reiterate, this is a terrific place to be a part of. Last night, I'm at GlenOak, and I'm soaking it in, Kenny. This is a terrific matchup. crowds on both sides are great. People are liking our videos, sharing our videos. That interview with Keith Quincy after just getting love from the McKinley community. And then, of course, you had a huge game. I'm sure it was a great crowd there, and same with the action on the Sardis Stream Game of the Week. So shout out all the Stark County fans, all the fans that get in our comments and leave positive or negative, whatever happens there. We appreciate everybody following, and it was another great week on the Huddle. So shout out the coaches and any closing thoughts there from the road, man.
Shout out to our sponsors, Brockers Import Automotive, right? Love that they're back with us once again and being a part of what we do. Also to Marianne Donuts for our sweet play of the week, and the Community One Credit Union. All of those sponsors wanting to be a part of what we do on Saturday mornings and making this a fun show, a special show, and a chance to give some love to these high school football players and coaches that deserve it for all the hard work they put in.
No doubt about it. Thanks, everybody, for watching. Be sure to subscribe on YouTube, follow on Facebook, and check WHBC Sports for more content and all our schedules. We'll see you next week on The Huddle.